Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous Horizons. You may remember during the beta for Horizons, my escapades down onto Achenar 3 where I attempted to land an Imperial cutter on a high 6G weld. Well, I thought I'd try that again, although this time I wanted to try it a little bit differently. This here is it's nearly a 10G planet. It's actually 9.77G. The system is HIP or HIP 12314. I'm here in my ASP. It's not a particularly heavy ship, but this could certainly prove to be a challenge. Now the system itself is quite interesting. It's got a very large central star, as you can see there, many times larger than our own sun. The first planet here we can't land on, and the second star here is just about over half the size of our own sun, but it's also quite close to the main star. And this here is the planet that we want to land on. You can see that it's actually got 97 Earth masses. Now, I've seen around the internet in regards to Elite that the number of Earth masses people seem to equate to the amount of gravity on the planet. For example, a planet with 20 Earth masses would or should have 20 G. But it doesn't work that way, at least not in Elite. The planet here with 97 Earth masses has a gravity rating of 9.7 G. Equally, a planet I visited the other day with a mass of 13 Earth masses had a gravity rating of 1.3 G. Now, I'm sure that back during beta for Horizons, I remember seeing on the system map that it actually displayed the planet's gravity rating. But as far as I can see, that doesn't seem to be here any longer. So I'm either misremembering that fact, or it's been removed. Or perhaps I'm just not looking hard enough. At any rate, here we come, landing down on this 9.7 G planet. You can see already that the gravity has taken significant hold of the ship down on the bottom right of the heads-up display. To the right of that you can see the downward velocity, the downward pull that the gravity is actually having on my ship here. Currently it's at 2 bars, just gone to 3. Now the higher that is, or the more bars there are, the faster my velocity is actually descending down towards the planet, and we've got to keep that down quite low. And in order to do that, we need to slow down our ship. So one of the ways of doing that is to put our ship in full-on reverse. That way we will use the reverse thrusters to slow our descent a bit, and you can see I've actually done that. Look at the velocity of my ship there. The speed of my ship is actually quite high. It's actually now decreasing. And before I actually started slowing down, I was well over 800 meters a second, which is way too fast to come in and land at. In my experiences since the beta, I've actually landed on quite a lot of different planets. Plenty of 3G and 4G planets, so I've got a little bit of a feel for this compared to how I had when I last tried this on an extremely high G planet. And the trick to try is to not have your nose of your ship pointing down too much. Just have a shallow descent and basically try and land your ship in the same way that you would if you were landing an airplane. So just 1.2 kilometers now to go until we reach the ground, and we're actually not doing too bad. Still going a little bit too fast, so even with the ship thrusters still on full reverse, it's taking quite a significant effort to actually slow down. And I've put a slight cut in there because that took about 1.5 minutes or so to get from the 300 meters a second down to the 70 meters a second you just saw. But I've put the thrusters in forward again, and instantly the ship has picked up a tremendous amount of speed, and this may be a little bit too fast to come in at. Right about to hit the ground now. I've put the landing gear out. Luckily I've got the shields on. I did lose a single ring there. The impact actually completely stopped my ship's momentum. Now the shield on this ship is only a class 3 shield, so if you're not that experienced at landing, I highly recommend putting the highest class shield you're actually willing or able to put onto your ship, and that will probably help quite a lot. But it probably won't help at all if you actually hit the ground at 1,000 meters a second or any crazy speed like that. So the problem now is finding a suitable position to land at. I've come in here at a relatively flat area, but there's a lot of small hills and things like that, and as soon as I pushed down on the vertical thrusters, you can see what effect that had. It just pulled my ship straight into the ground, again impacting my shield a fair chunk. So just moving forward here very slowly, moving back a little bit, hoping to find a suitable area, and that when I touch down again, the impact isn't too hard. Again, you can see that just made me lose yet another ring on my shields, and for some reason the landing gear didn't lock in. You could see me pitching back and forward there, and eventually it did actually lock in. So a successful landing, a slight damage to my shield, but all in all pretty good, still on 100% hull. And here I decided to leave the ship in the SRV and see what it was like to drive around on a nearly 10G planet. Keep in mind that this means that the SRV now weighs 10 times its normal weight. And the effect that should have is that the SRV should bounce around significantly less, something that I'm quite keen to try out. On the low G worlds, the SRV can bounce around like crazy, especially on ones with hills like this. It can make it very difficult to drive on, so hopefully that should make quite a difference. And here I thought we could have a nice little look at the SRV and the ASP landed together on the surface of this nice looking world. The blue light there from the local star really does give this a wonderful looking hue. Now I can't wait to have dual light sourcing or multiple light sourcing put into the game. David Braben has said that that's something he'd like to add in, but it's probably something that's still a long way away. It would be nice here because obviously on one horizon you've got the blue-white star, and on the other horizon you've got the orange star, the yellow star, and that should really give some nice looking effects to the surface of the planet, something that is currently missing. I was actually curious how well the ship would be able to escape the gravity well of this planet when in autopilot, but it seems to do that in just the same way it manages it on all the other planets. It didn't seem to have any problem at all taking off. It's going to be interesting as well to see how well the ship returns to this planet. Is it going to smash itself into the ground? And if it does successfully land, will I also be able to take off with the same grace that that ship just did on its own under autopilot? At any rate, it was time to now drive around and see what effects the gravity here had on the SRV. And that is pretty much immediately apparent. I'm going around about 2/3 the speed here, and you can see that the vehicle really isn't bouncing around at all. Tried out the thrusters a very little bit here. I don't want to go too high because if I do, there's a chance that I could smash very hard down into the ground. But you could see that the thrusters didn't have much of an effect. And the other nice touch here is that you literally don't bounce at all over these little hills. The gravity has very strong grip on the vehicle, and it just keeps it glued to the ground very, very solidly. And also just watch how the chunks of ore spew out of that little node there. They don't spew out at all, they don't fly up into the air, they literally drop on the spot, all of them clustered together in a neat little pile. Now another thing I noticed is that the gravity here actually makes it difficult to get up to climb some inclines here. Once you get to about a 20-degree incline, you'll find that the SRV just can't make it. It just slips and slides backwards, something that only occurs on much steeper inclines on the lower G worlds. And that of course means it'd be quite easy to actually get stuck on this world. If you end up down in a little crater or a little hole, there's probably no way you're actually going to get back out again aside from self-destructing. Now, I don't know about you lot, but I feel the light here on the ground doesn't look too dissimilar to a bright moonlight. And it would have been quite easy to actually feel we're in the middle of a desert somewhere. Now, driving around, I did discover only one point of interest. You can see it there, right on the horizon. It's a nav beacon. Now, this planet, this system, is 1400 light years away from Sol, so a significant distance even from the edges of inhabited space. This far out, there are no nav beacons in space, there are no NPCs, and you rarely, if ever, get interdicted. So seeing a trash nav beacon down here on the surface of the planet really is a curiosity, mostly because it's a wonder how it actually got here in the first place, because this system would not have had one of these. At any rate, it marked a discovery on this planet, and then I moved on. It was time to recall back my ship and have a look how it was going to land. At this point, it didn't manage too badly at all. It was that last moment there that really was a bit of a problem, and you can see as it deploys its landing gear, it raises itself back up again. So I thought that the ship might have taken a bit of damage having hit the ground quite that hard, a bit harder I'm sure than how I hit it when I actually landed. But then again, I'm also curious as to whether the ships are actually invulnerable when they're under the control of autopilot. But the answer to that I was about to find out soon enough, because here I am just boarding the ship again. Now, also in the back of my mind was wondering just how gracefully I'd be able to take off. Would I do it as efficiently as the autopilot did it early on, or would I not? Fortunately though, we can see that the autopilot hadn't done any damage to the ship or the shield. But now I had my vertical thrusters full on and I actually wasn't lifting off at all, so I decided to point the nose of the ship up. Now I was wondering really why the vertical thrusters didn't actually have any effect, because earlier on they actually did have an effect when I was trying to land. They did lift the ship up a little bit, but at that point I wasn't actually stuck or attached on the ground, so maybe that was why. But here we're pointing right up, the nose right up, thrusting the main thrusters full on, and we're actually not going anywhere at all. Not quite sure why this happened. It could either be the amount of gravity affecting the ship, or it could just be a glitch of some type, but I did find that once I pointed my nose of my ship just at 5 degrees or so, with the ship's acceleration at maximum, I did start to move forward, even though it was quite a slow speed. The plan next then was to have a fly over the surface of the planet very carefully in order to locate a couple of points of interest. I didn't know how well I'd be able to settle down, but also wanted to have a look at some craters if I could find them, because obviously this being a high metal content planet, there should hopefully be something decent and worthwhile inside those craters. At least that was my hope. But whether or not I was to actually find something, the views on this planet were actually breathtaking. Really nice place to come and visit. Now, at this point, just on the edges of my radar, I discovered a point of interest, and it was here that I made my first and final mistake. Banking toward the point of interest, I forgot that the lateral thrusters really are very weak, and look now what effect that is having on my ship. The gravity has got hold of me and it's not going to let go. I pointed the backside of my ship downwards and it boosted, but it just wasn't enough. I boosted again, but a little bit too close to the ground, and that probably is what finally finished me off. Bit of a shame after successfully landing here and driving around and then having a successful takeoff, but well, that's just how it goes sometimes, I guess. At the very least though, it saved me the travel time back to inhabited space, and at a rebuy cost of just under $1.25 million, it really wasn't too expensive or too much of a concern at any rate. So if you fancy going to a high G world, that one is a very good place to actually go. And unlike the other one in Akana, it doesn't require a permit to visit. So far that is the highest gravity world actually discovered. There could well be some high G worlds out there, but with probably trillions of planets to actually explore, it could be a long time before we know one way or the other. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time. Today we're going to go take a look at the Sol system, the home of Earth. Here I am then in M. Gorbachev, one of the space stations orbiting our planet. I'm in my Cobra because I thought that'd make a nice change to head out and explore in. This is Mercury, the closest planet to our sun and one of the hottest. Clearly at this point in our future we've overcome that problem as we have large settlements there. This is Erlich City, the largest settlement on Mercury, and it is indeed a massive place.